Hi, this is Ashishar Bidekar and welcome to my podcast, The ARB Show. I am thrilled to introduce today's guest, Sagar. Sagar is the founder of smallstep.ai. It is an AI product lab and creator of Missile, a Marathi LLM. Their goal is to build an AI system to generate products for billions of internet users, helping them access the internet and all the opportunities without an English barrier. Missile is their first model powering various innovative use cases and AI products for Marathi internet users. Sagar was earlier working with India's leading multilingual content platform called Pratilipi, which was backed by Tencent and Craftcom, where he led the recommendation engine for the platform. Welcome to the show, Sagar, and look forward to hearing your views on top 5 trends on non-English LLMs. Over to you, Sagar.
Yeah. Hi, Ashish. Thanks for the introduction and thanks for reaching out. This topic, non-English LLMs, like before even diving to that, like let us get introduced with very basic vocabulary that we'll be using in this podcast so that everyone relates to it in a much better sense. So there is some basic vocabulary of LLMs like pre-training. So what is pre-training? So here, think of soaking your clothes before washing. So in the same manner, this model is exposed to lots and lots of words, so that model understands the language better. Okay, so that is pre-training. Fine-tuning is making a bot, making a specific use case out of that language model, like a sales bot, like some chatbot. Okay, so that is fine-tuning part. And in order to make the model speak in a certain language, like you give it a certain dictionary or vocabulary. So here vocabulary is also one part in the LLM terminology. Okay, so vocabulary is the words that model is going to use. Okay, now I'll briefly introduce like what all like data is present, like how the data was collected for non-English LLMs or language models initially, and then we can take a look at what all models are currently present and how the landscape evolved. The next part is like data. So earlier, like there was very little data available in digitized format. So like lot of people started off with manual curation of this data. So they used to take books and like then they used to scan and get it into digitized format. Slowly, as the internet grew, people started doing web scraping. So scraping of the internet, like lots of digital data, like which was present in non-English languages. After a while, technology advanced and people started doing machine translation. So that is the part like which Google had like really enhanced a lot, and it enabled development of these multilingual large language models in the initial stages. So machine translation was one way of gathering data. Slowly, when the large language models progressed, even they started speaking their own language. So they were able to generate these large language models itself were able to generate some amount of data. So this is called as synthetic data generation. So it is only due to like data, like we are able to create large language models today. So like I think it is necessary to point out the importance of data and like what all trends we have been through. So like using this multilingual data, like in early stages, pre-LLM era, I would say, MBERT by Google, Bloom model. So these models were built as like multilingual language models. So that is my like first bit on data.
Got it. So before that, just as a side note, what inspired you to name your Marathi language LLM as Missile? So maybe that backstory would be interesting for the audience.
Yeah, definitely. So I think lots of models were being named after animals. They are relatable to some extent, but if you ask anyone like what are you having for breakfast today, like most of them would probably say something like poha or like misal. So like these are like the most relatable breakfasts, and I think like larger audience would have related to this name, hence we named it
Got
misal.
it. Also, maybe can you also maybe spend some time for the audience and explain the reason for working on a Marathi language LLM and why the traditional or existing LLMs or existing AI tools like ChatGPT or Google Gemini, etc., are not able to give answers in Marathi. Maybe that would help set the context as well.
Yeah, definitely. So Misr is like a specially trained large language model for Marathi. So the reason why we started this is because we noticed a gap between how the other models, which are closed source, like you mentioned ChatGPT. If you ask it to type something, it will be more mechanical in nature. Even if you give some like basic task like translation to Google Translate, the meaning of the sentence that is given as an output, it is more of literal sense. So just for an instance, in Marathi if you say ki tu dagad ahes, that means you are dumb in English. So the Google Translate will translate it to you are a stone. So like these literal translations uh, like create a lot of gap between the actual message that has to be conveyed. So there was a necessity to like at least try to solve for this. So hence like we started off with this initiative like called Misr, which will enable all the users, not only English speaking users but also like other language speaking users, to adopt lots of content in their own regional languages. So I being from Maharashtra, like it was only natural to start up from like Marathi language. Yeah.
Got it. No, this is very interesting because there is a tendency to look at the world through the prism of English, right? Because that's the international language. But at the same time, as you rightly mentioned, you miss out on the nuances and the cultural differences, right? And every culture, every language has its own set of interesting information and culture which are untranslatable, right? So unless you learn or know the language, even if you do a translate, it really doesn't capture the essence. So it's really important to think in that language. And again, as you rightly mentioned, what you're also doing essentially is democratization of AI, so that even non-English speakers can adopt AI, right? And for example, once you look at, I'm just thinking aloud, if you look at a multimodal way of a person who can interact with a Marathi AI agent through voice, that would be the most natural kind of a conversation, wherein now you're opening the doors of opportunities to a person who does not know English, right? So that's fantastic. Yeah. So let's go to the next point which you had in this area.
Yeah. Correct. So the time when I started, like lots of models were being trained on like Llama architecture. So Llama is a LLM by Meta. So here, like there is a concept of continual pre-training, meaning you have some existing model that has been trained by these big companies. You make this model speak some different language as well. So you add on to the vocabulary of that particular model. Okay. So for example, this is Meta's Llama 2 model, and it was trained on some specific data. Okay. But now you want to extend its capabilities to some other language, say Chinese. So Chinese Llama was the first model that came out in this continual pre-training space. So what they did was they expanded Llama 2's vocabulary to a certain length, and then they pre-trained it on Chinese documents. So that model sees lots and lots of Chinese data, and then it understands some structural nuances of the Chinese itself. Okay, and then it was fine-tuned for acting like a chatbot. So that is how like Chinese llama was developed. After that, like our Indian researchers also worked on it. So like there was Tamil llama which was created, Malayalam llama which was created, and Misr, like even that is a llama based Marathi LLM. So just to give a brief about this llama 2 architecture, so it is of like 7 billion parameters and 32k vocabulary. So what people generally do is they add on top of this 32k tokens vocabulary. So when I say token, it is a word or a part of word. So we'll add lots and lots of Marathi tokens to this vocabulary, and then we'll try to see if model is able to generate a sentence or is able to answer a particular question. So that is how like this llama 2 phase of pre-training and fine-tuning was started, and like it's still going
Got
on.
it. Got it. So just just thinking or trying to make it very simple. So if I were to explain it to a non-technical person, would I be right in saying that think of a dictionary, right, or think of a textbook, right? And using that textbook, if there is a technology to scan and understand what is there in the textbook, and that technology helps you to answer and query the textbook in a very easy way, right? That is a very rudimentary way of understanding what a model, right? But
Yeah.
here, because there is no Marathi, you won't get any Marathi textbook. So if you add Marathi textbook or Marathi text to this framework, you will start getting richer and richer Marathi answers. Is that a fair assessment?
I would say like up to some extent.
Okay.
So the vocabulary part, I would say, is more of a dictionary.
Okay.
So the vocabulary, say for example, you are a Marathi speaker and like you want to learn some new language. First, you will have to understand the words. So think of like you bought some dictionary. Now you know that you have to use these words in order to generate some English language. But how to generate those words, that is what you will be learning in the process. Maybe via some course or teacher. So your brain itself is like a model. So you will understand structure of words, you will understand what the grammar is, and according to that you will try to make an English sentence. So in the similar manner, LLM also does the same.
Got it. So essentially it's the framework which is trying to mimic reasoning and the whole construct. Very nice. I mean, reason for making this thing is so that audience who are non-technical can also understand and appreciate. That was a great explanation. Thank you. So what are the other trends or other things to know about non-English LLMs in your perspective?
So recently, like there was another development in this area. This research and models were open sourced by Google. These are called Gemma models. So the main key point over here is they also have a lightweight variant of the model. So here we in Llama 2, there was a 7 billion parameter model, 13 billion parameter model, which was being used for these non-English LLMs. But here Gemma is a lightweight model. It has only 2 billion parameters and 7 billion parameters. So compressing all the knowledge into a smaller model like that requires significant effort. And as I mentioned, the vocabulary part, here the vocabulary size is increased a lot. So in Llama 2, the vocabulary was of 32k words, 32k words or 32k tokens. Okay. In Gemma models, it is of 256k. So the number of tokens in vocabulary of Gemma model is 256k. So that is where this model stands out. So inherently, like Gemma has good multilingual capabilities, but for Indian languages, our Indian researchers also adopted this Gemma model by continual pre-training, the similar procedure that I explained just before, to Gemma models as well. So yeah, like that is like one significant milestone that came in the recent times for non-English LLMs.
Got it. I was reading somewhere that essentially when you talk of tokens, it's kind of a metering or measurement for billing or for monetization, to put it very
Yeah,
simply. But if there is a word in English, right, let us say happy, and that word happy probably requires one token, right? So which means that one token could be whatever 1 cent based on the billing rate or whatever. So if you have
yeah,
that in your account, you are able to process that. Essentially, that's what it means. But
yeah,
the non-English words or say Marathi or Hindi or other language LLMs, the metering is high, right? So instead of
yeah,
if the English token is 1:1, maybe for non-English it is say 10:1, right? So you require more
yeah,
tokens for the same processing. So which means it
definitely.
becomes more and more costly for processing or working on non-English LLMs, right? And that's a big
Yeah.
gap. So what do you feel is the way to bridge that gap? Because unless that uh, bridge, it is a bridge, it becomes is not very amenable to wide adoption, because then it will be always be an expensive model compared to an English model.
Yeah. Definitely. So the thing that I talked about expanding the vocabulary, that like expansion of that vocabulary itself requires us to train a tokenizer. What when I say tokenizer, think of a sentence and like you start picking out each word. So initially, like we think of some Marathi sentence or some non-English language, our models, the earlier models, like they were not capable of breaking these sentences into exact words or part of words. They were doing it character wise. So think of a word like happy, it would have been broken down into HAPPY, like three different tokens, and like that would have been processed. But now what we do is we train our own tokenizer, a kind of sentence splitter for LLMs to consume the sentence. Okay, so by training this tokenizer, we can bridge that gap by showing model exactly like what are the words that are repeating. So happy might be repeating in a lot of sentences. Happiness and happy, like they have HAPP in common. So HAPP might be one kind of token which can be split. So by showing the model like different texts, it will inherently understand like how to split a sentence. So that is how like we approach this tokenization and like length of tokens part. So yeah.
Fantastic. So what are the other things to note about non-English LLMs in your view?
Yeah, so like to be honest, like there is a lot of research that is happening around this, and like every week or like every 2 weeks, like some new model is coming up. Like before this podcast, like recently, like even 5.3 was released by Microsoft, and like few days before that, Llama 3 was released. So Llama 3, I think, is one milestone. I would say it was trained on like 15 trillion tokens. So think of 15 trillion tokens like words or parts a part of words. So that included lots of languages, like around 30 languages, and its vocabulary size is 128k tokens. So as compared to Llama 2, which was 32k vocabulary size, it is now 128k. For Indian languages, I would say the model is not very usable for non-Devanagari languages. For Devanagari languages, the generation is very decent. I tried it out for Hindi and Marathi. Uh, for like some use cases, like this model can definitely work out. But considering other languages than Indian languages, like for French, Italian, etc., like this model can be used. So like slowly we can see that lots these companies are actually moving towards non-English as well, slowly, and other researchers are adopting these models for their use cases
Got it.
slowly.
So
Yeah,
just for the audience as a context, Devanagari refers to the script, and the Indian languages of Hindi as well as Marathi are written in the Devanagari language. So is Sanskrit. So that is just for context of the audience. So that's great. So what's your final final thought on key trend in this region.
Okay. So recently, OpenAI had launched a model called Sora, which is multi-modal in nature. When I say multi-modal, it can consume audio, text, and images as well, video as well, and then it can generate some sort of output as per your request. So similarly, like this trend is can be observed in multilingual uh, LLMs as well. So here you can there is a model called Rika Core, which is multimodal and multilingual large language model, wherein you can take input of as I said, audio, text, and images, and it will give output from any of these three. So even this was trained on like 32 languages, pre-trained on 32 languages, and like 110 Wikipedias in varying languages. So like that was the kind of corpus these people trained this model on, and they significantly enhanced the multilingual understanding of language capabilities. So that is one significant milestone, I would say, in this space. And I think like there is a lot of active research and development going in this area, and like a lot of people are expanding models capabilities for other languages as well. So yeah.
Got it. So with missile LLMs, what's the business outlook on how do you want to take it to the market? Are you licensing it out to content houses or researchers? What's the plan?
Yeah, so currently we are still in talks with few people, and for now, like we are will be open sourcing a lot so that the whole research is taken forward. So slowly we'll be taking this model to a closed source model, but that still has time, I would say.
Got it. Are you also reaching out to government of Maharashtra for help on this area?
Right now, no, but we do have that in plan because
Okay.
I think it will definitely enhance the working of the entire government pipeline.
Got
Yeah.
it. Got it. So I'm just thinking aloud, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I also thought that this can also be a very great tool for research. And when you say research, I would say in the realms of history, right? Because there would be many historical documents, right, or government documents, etc., which are there, and because it is on paper, it is not searchable, nor you can do anything about it. But if there is a way to maybe scan it and digitize it and have that data available for analysis via AI tools like yours, then new stuff can arise, right? For example, I'm sure there would be many historical documents, there would be many old government records, art, culture, literature, which is on in Marathi. If it is all digitized, then you can really have interesting analysis and interesting creation. Maybe even go into the area of generative AI as well. What do you think are the chances of that happening?
I think there is currently a research going on this area. For example, like there are some prehistoric scripts like which are not understandable by us, people like us. So in order to take knowledge from that, like people have developed lots of models in order to just understand like what has been written in that text. So I think once we like take this research forward, only then I think we'll be in a position to analyze and understand like these historic documents and do research on top of it. But yeah, I think we'll get there soon. And once digitized, I think like there's definitely a use case wherein which our like missile model can be used in order to analyze these documents.
Great. Sagar, any milestones or any aha moments in the missile journey which you would like to share with the audience?
So I would say like it was when our model actually, so I'll tell you the training process. So while training, we save some checkpoints. So every time you kind of control S and like save the model somewhere. So after few points, like the model was actually starting to generate some legible Marathi sentences. So like that was when we understood yes, this model could actually learn Marathi. So that was something that was magical for me, at least. So yeah.
Fantastic. Great, great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sagar. This gives a great perspective. And thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in. Do subscribe, share, and like this podcast. Consider giving the podcast a 5-star rating if you like the content. Bye for now. Talk to you soon.